One, here we go. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 3050. And Doubleshot number 2944. Both these two books written by veteran comic book writers, and both had their issues published in the 1990s. Well, one's a miniseries, the other one is basically an ongoing published. Though they are published by two different companies. This first one is published by Dark Horse, the other published by Marvel Comics. First up we have is Usagi Yojimbo, Saga, book number 3. This book collects issues 31 to 52 of Usagi Yojimbo, along with these following books. Stories from Dark Horse Comic presents issue 140, the 1999 annual Dark Horse Maverick 2001, 2023 of Dark Horse Extra, the 97 Wizard, the Con magazine, and Oni Del Feature number 11. Of course, Dan Saga basically is the one who writes and draws this. The stories in here are Demon Mask, Grass Cutter, a sequel to the popular Grass Cutter story. Doesn't have a big role here. The Shrouded Moon, and that's it. By the way, the cast of this book is Tomoe doesn't do a lot of anything in here. There is also Usagi, obviously, Gin, Katsura, Kitsu, who apparently is attached to Gin, and also Who's Sensei. Yes. And the stories basically from these ones, for DMS, we have Death in Texas, A Funny Thing Happened Winning the Tournament, Natsuki, The Leaping Ninja, The Inn at the Moon, The Shadow of the Hill, Life of Mush, Deserters, A Potter's Tale, The Masked Missive, The Mystery of the Demon Mask, Tatsu, Koman, Reunion. For the Grass Cutter sequel, by the way, the introductions are here done by Paul Dini does Demon Mask. The introduction for Grass Cutter is Greg Rucker, who I've actually met. And Shroud Moon is done by Scott Shaw. Grass Cutter Stories is prologue, and we have the 6 chapters, which are Whisper of Wings, Saint of the Pines, The Hunger for Death, Visions of the Shadows, Feel the Salt, The Realm of Senses. The Shrouded Moon stories are Showdown, Escape, The 3 Seasons, Usagi and the Kami of the Pond, The Shrouded Moon, and Kusane's Tale. One of the stories in here involves, like, I was supposed to happen one of the covers here because this does happen. I thought it was really, really cool, the fact they included this in here. So, there's a lot of ghost stories in here, taking other demons, but one of the coolest things about this book is you have Gin and Usagi taking on an army of ninjas. I'm like, that is so cool. And this does happen in 45. Probably the whole ninja stuff is so awesome. Oh, by the way, those of you who saw the 2012 TMNT episode with Shichi Usagi, look, it's the Snake Lord. Yeah, he appears in here too. I think this was actually his debut appearance. Yeah. And this book is just, oh my gosh, is so fun, this book. Like, all the stories in here are fantastic. Loved every single issue of this book. Yes. By the way, it was even a story published in color. Yeah, and also the fact that the whole thing of, like, now there are some stories in here that are published sideways for some reason here. I think this is the book that had it, because I remember seeing here. And the whole thing with the friend here, it's like they basically, she was hired by a local gangster to take another gangster because he was, let's just say he was very terrible for this town. So basically, she was hired to take him up by stealing this particular crab shell, which apparently is very valuable for reasons. And also, in case you're curious, those Tomoe's Lord, is he in the book? No, he is not here. I think he's mentioned, but he's not in the issues at all. But most of the movie, he just had the Snake Lord, which I think was really cool. I got a chance to see this guy. Like, the first time I ever saw this guy was actually in the Team of T 3-parter, which was excellent, by the way. Which said this guy actually wrote the first parter, for the first part of the 3-parter story. Which, watch that 3-parter makes me think, why can't we have an Usagi Yojimbo cartoon? You have plenty of source material. And the fact he's still pretty popular. People do know who he is. He's not an unknown character. He's appeared frequently with the Turtles. Like, if you want to have a guest appearance by the Turtles, fine. If you want to continue the one appeared in the that 3-parter. Excuse me. If you ask me personally, which one of the 3 Usagis do I want to see continue this actual series? The one of the 2012 series, because that one felt like basically a Usagi Yojimbo story. The other ones are basically good nods to them. But the one from 2012 actually was really good. Probably by far the best interpretation of Usagi to date. That's just my honest opinion. The first one basically just like a tourist. Second one was actually kind of pretty close, but I would say the most accurate portrayal of Usagi is from that 3-parter. Yeah. But this book is so fantastic. It's a thing though with this book, no humans. Yep, because it's a world where the humans are not here, where the animals are sentient, or basically are all samurai. This book is awesome. I give it a 10 out of 10. And kind of with that, basically in a way, I have kind of reviewed, let's see. I want to make sure I get this right here. I've kind of in a way covered the first 75 issues out of 174 for this book. Yeah, the 174 issues of the ongoing for Usagi, for Dark Horse. Mm-hmm. Though he did make a return recently in the last couple of years. He had a mini-series. It's going to start really soon. Don't have a date for that one yet. Alright, next up, basically, I was kind of surprised they said release this book as a mini-series. Here we go. We have Daredevil Black Armor. You think, wait, Daredevil has one of these books? Basically has Reyes going back, fill the gaps in the run? Yeah, it's Daredevil Black Armor. Those of you who are familiar with this version of Daredevil, this is basically Daredevil what happened after he did the Fall of Grace storyline. He wore this out for 2 years. It is written by the guy who actually started this, who is D.G. Chester, with artwork in this book done by Nikhil Diaz. I would not, by the way, the cover right here is done by Mark Bagley with Edgar Gerardo and Rumble Joe Jr. I would not have been surprised if this book was outselling the South Almond mini, the ongoing. I would not be surprised by that because there are people who probably, from what I can tell, are not fans of current Marvel. So when they do something like this, having Reyes come back to do fill in gaps run, I would not be surprised if this book actually was selling more than the actual ongoing for Daredevil. And here's the weird thing about this book. Because all these fill in gap miniseries usually last about 5 or 6 issues. This lasted for 4. You're like, really? Yes, really. And there's a whole bunch of guest stars galore in here. So the book starts out with, looks like Melvin Potter. Looks like he had fished the Daredevil armor. Looks like possibly out of the water. Or it could have maybe when he first got it or something. It's just like he's working on it. And then we have a flashback to, looks like possibly stuff was going on before this, like hack virus. Yeah, this basically is, well, it's dealing with the whole thing of like the fall from grace stuff. This is basically, I would say, this is, even though it's set during, I would say is not long after the start of the run. So Jack, that's what, it's called Jack Battalion. Yeah, Jack Battalion, the name itself is not his father battling Jack Murdoch. He had to fake his death because of all the grace stuff because he saved New York from a virus. By the way, the artwork here, like I mentioned, is done by Nichio Diaz. But it looks like the style of, like, you look at this artwork here, you might think, is that Brett Boof's artwork? By the design of it, it looks like Brett Booth, but it's not Brett Booth at all. It's a completely different artist. It's just the colors are very... I think it's even the same colors work with Brad Booth. That's probably the reason why I'm getting confused with it. So, you have Randy. You just have Jet. Well, Matt basically is connecting. Of course, he has armor. And mostly he just deals with his own thing. And then he runs, of all people, freaking Sabretooth. Which, by the way, chronologically, the last time he fought him was actually in a aftermath issue for Fall of the Mutants, where he escaped from the Xavier Institute and became a prisoner there. And he basically fights him once again. He saves people here. He goes to church because he's still Catholic. Of course, he gives some free legal advice to people. And this stuff he went with, I think his girlfriend Randy. He's like, oh, new Daredevil. It's still the same Daredevil. And then, look at this guy here. Oh, is that Wilson Fisk? I think so. Yeah, it is Wilson Fisk, but he doesn't really do anything at all in this book. Not really. Yeah, that's the thing about it. He does practically nothing. Yep. And then Baron Wolfgang von Strucker shows up here, because now we're in the 90s. It's like, oh, guest stars galore. And then issue 2, after a flashback with his father, then you have Daredevil running into Spider-Man. Yep. You might be thinking, is that, by design-wise, is that Peter or Ben in the costume? It's Peter. How would I tell the design of the costume? Because Ben had a completely different design for costume. So Sabretooth proceeds to kidnap various people. And then Daredevil runs into a character which, to my knowledge, he's never met before in comics. Hobgoblin. Now the obvious question is, which one is it? I'm going to spitball this, who's basically wearing this costume here. It's not Jason Macendale. No, I think this might be, it might be the original Hobgoblin in the suit. Yeah, I think it's, Roger Kingsley. It might be him, but there's no confirmation which one it is. It could be Roderick. He did come back to this period of time, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's him. So he fights. And then he runs into the Mole Man. Yes, the freaking Mole Man is here. Except he's been chained up and defeated by Baron Wolfgang von Strucker. So we have a Nick Fury villain, a Wolverine / Iron Fist villain, and an Fantastic Four in here, and a Spider-Man villain. Interesting, because it's 90s. Yep. And of course, you have a boxing match where he has various opponents, including Batroc the Leaper, Tarantula, except this should not be the real Tarantula because he died in the 80s. And then we see Lady Deathstrike. Yes, that is the correct costume she wore at this point in time. So, glad they got that right. And then we have the fight with these various people who were kidnapped to fight in this underground boxing ring. And his first fight gets some unknown thugs, beats him up, and then at the beat him up, then he fights Lady Deathstrike, Batroc the Leaper. I'm guessing this is Whiplash, a Tarantula, and I don't know who this is here in the corner. I have no idea who the heck that is. They don't say who it is. Yep. And he says, you're going to die in Arizona. Like, now I've got to figure out who the heck this guy is here. Because I don't know who the heck this guy is. I had to look it up on here. Because it says this guy died in Arizona. I'm like, really? Who the heck is this guy? I mean, I know who Batroc is. I know who Tarantula is. Okay, the tarantula, like, oh yeah, I was correct. It's not the original tarantula. It's a guy by the name of Luis Alvarez. Yeah, this is actually the second tarantula. Mm-hmm. Yep. So the Whiplash guy, his name is Technospike. He's a character debuted in Silver Sable and Wild Pack, who prior to this last appeared in Daredevil issue 332. So he's a character associated with Daredevil. So there's also Bat Mip, another Daredevil character. Snake Root, that might be him. So his name is Tagigi. He said he would die in Arizona, which kind of makes sense because he died in Electrum or 4. Which was a miniseries known as Elektra, which the miniseries is called Root of Evil. And this is set before his death. This actually was the first publication we've seen since that 4th issue. Yep. Kind of interesting, though, the fact that this ventriloquist, this Talon reader, she would say, "Oh, he would die in Arizona." So his name is Saga on that. I forgot this guy's name. Yeah, and then of course we have more fighting, and then we have Wolfgang himself basically getting in the fray. We see as many battle scars from when he fought Nick Fury back in the frickin' 40s. Yep. So then of course Daredevil puts his cop, and then apparently between panels, Matt managed to find a way to find his suit, put it on, fought Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, which by the way he did fight him in Dead Man's Hand, and also we appearance here by Calvin Zabel, aka Mr. Hyde. And the next issue he deals with Sabretooth and Hobgoblin, of course. And they get people out of this place to get them out of the place. So they have this this ship they're on go to the surface, and then we have where Baron von Strucker he gets his own ride out of it, which I'm not surprised because this is the guy leader of Hydra. Of course, you have an escape plan. So you get out there, and then basically then the thing starts shaking, and then they're rescued by Iron Man in his 90s costume. Yes, I believe he wore this costume. I think he wore this suit. I think when Len Kanetsky wrote the book. Yes. So, yeah, of course, question the whole thing with armor. And then, of course, basically, then, of course, he sees Foggy briefly. And he goes off, and that's it. Oh, in case you're curious, though, the girl Randy, who appears in the book, Rangel, is she a character from this run? Yes, she is definitely a character from the Daredevil run. She had not been seen in the book since issue 337. She would actually make a return in Daredevil number 8 as part of this double-sized 670th issue of the series. Yeah, they brought her back in the book in one of the stories. I think, that's interesting. And of course, her story is written by her creator, D.G. Sester. Yeah, but prior to that, her last appearance was in Daredevil 337, which came out in 1994. That was the last time I ever saw this woman. And the way the book is written here, it's almost like that she was written to be sort of his love interest without Elektra here. Elektra does briefly in the book, but she doesn't interact with Daredevil at all, which kind of ties with the continuity of that run. But this book was really good. I give this book a 10 out of 10. It was awesome. Yep, so yeah, this took a view. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do hit the dislike button. Well, next up, basically, it's going to be Bleach. And then another comic corner, okay? Next view. Bye.